Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. As you can see here, I still have this beautiful E46 M3 and Imola red on the lift. Today I'm going to be installing and removing the old intake and putting in the Turner Motorsport CSL intake in the car. I'm just going to take you on over to my desk area to show you what everything looks like. This is a kit you can get right off of their website, whether it's through Turner or ECS. I'm just going to remove all the wrapping carefully because this is in carbon fiber. So here we have a carbon fiber intake, CSL intake in gloss carbon, not matte. As you can see here. And then the rest of the stuff that comes with the kit is also over here. I'm just going to show it to you really quickly. You have all of these nuts, washers, bolts, clamps. We also need, because this car is SMG, you're going to need the relocation, the CSL relocation expansion tank. You have a filter here, cable, hose, couplers for the throttle bodies, another hose, a couple other stuff. So I'm going to get into it now. All right, so the first two steps are going to be opening the hood. Just going to step in here. As you can see, everything's pretty much stock underneath. And then the second thing is going to be removing the negative battery cable from the back of the car, which I already did. Now I'm going to start removing all of the stuff. Another thing I just want to point out, with a lot of stuff from Turner or ECS, when it comes to their kits, they have instructions online. Every step you need to follow in case you don't know what you're doing. Like me, I don't know what I'm doing. So I'm just going to occasionally look back and see what needs to be done. So I'm just going to keep that here. The first thing I'm going to be removing is the strut brace. Alright, so all four bolts are removed now. Nuts are removed now. Just going to put this underneath here. All right. The next thing you're going to need to do is you're going to pop up these four push pins, whatever you want to call them. Sucker out. So you're going to remove this piece here along with the stock piece. Alright, so that's done. Like I said, I'm just looking over the instructions here. So now I'm just going to remove this piece over here. So I'm going to remove the stock air shutoff pipe, which is going to be these two, which I have to squeeze. Okay, so that one's done. I need to get screwdriver to lift this one up. Oh, there we go. All right, so I am removing now the valve, or the air shutoff valve. I just did it off camera because I didn't want to break it. As you can see here, this is barbed, and it just removed it from this silicone hose here. So now I'm going to put this to the side. All right, So I'm going to remove the MAF sensor now. What you're going to need are some pliers. Just going to need to compress the 2 side pins and wiggle it out, and you'll have it out. So I'm going to put this away. Alright, so after you remove the MAF sensor, you're going to come over to the ballast. I already have the ballast disconnected because we were figuring out a problem that was going on with the headlight. It ended up being a whole different situation, so I'm just going to remove this. Put this over here. Swing this over here as well. So you're going to need to, obviously, you're going to remove the nut that was here, the bolt that was here, and I'm going to remove this bolt now. So I got this piece out. It'll be a little easier to pull out that. Yeah, buddy. And now I have this piece out. So I'm just gonna put this over here with all the stock parts. So the next thing is going to be removing this top piece. So you're just gonna need to remove, these are like spring. There's 3 of them in total. Excuse me. All right. And again, I'm just gonna go put this with all my other parts. You can leave the filter in if you want, it's up to you. So now, the next step is telling me to remove, it says the stock intake system. So I'm just gonna remove a couple of the wires and I'll be right back. All right, so I'm just gonna remove these 4 tabs because I have to release the cables that are inside to move them out of the way. Again, my nails are fighting with me. There we go. Alrighty. Oop, let me just put this up here. So normally this would sit in these 2 holders, which I'm just gonna put this back in up top here, if I can. And then, if you see here, there's a clip. This also needs to be removed from here, but it was already removed. And then same thing with, there's a holder up here that you need to remove this hose from, wire from, which has already been removed as well. So the next step is going to be removing the 4 screws that are at the bottom of the cabin filter housing, which are these 4 screws back there. Going to get my handy dandy T30. Might actually need a longer extension. Alrighty. All right, so this one's out now. This is a bit heavier than what I thought it was going to be. I'm just going to put all of this over here now. All right, so the next step is going to be removing the stock vent crankcase hose, which runs from the valve cover over to the plenum. So I'm just going to use my handy dandy pliers to squeeze while I lift up at the same time. Sometimes it's easier for me to just use my hands, but sometimes it just doesn't want to come up. I think when BMW made hoses that have these pins that you need to squeeze on the side, they did to torture some people. There we go. One side's out. Let's see if I can reach this from over here. I'll do the same thing on this side. All right. So I've removed it now from the valve cover and the plenum. All right, so as you just saw, I just removed the crankcase vent valve from both the intake side and the valve cover side. So now the next thing I'm going to be doing is removing this nut over here. And then after I remove that nut, I'm going to come in the back over here. If you want to take a look, there is this bracket that slides up and down that holds the positive cable onto the intake. So I'm going to remove that after I remove the nut. All right, so as you can see now, this will move freely. Remove the nut, so I'm just going to go put this in my cart. And now I'm going to remove this clip over here, which is going to be fun. So this clip you're going to need, there's a tab on it that you have to pull outward, and then you have to slide, while you're pulling outward, you have to slide it up. So I'm going to try to do that with one hand. I brought a screwdriver just in case, but I think I got it. I think I need a screwdriver. Let me slide this up. And there we go. All right, so that's how you remove it. As you can see, this tab gets pulled out and then it just slides right up. So now this can move freely as well. All right, so the next step says I have to look underneath the plenum to remove 2 nuts which secure the mounting bracket. And then there's also a rubber solenoid hanger that I have to remove as well. So I'm just going to look at the picture here and see if I can get in under there. All right, so the first one is going to be this one right here. Then this is the rubber mounting. And then the other one is right here. I'm going to try and remove them now. And my light doesn't really want to stay, which is kind of annoying, but I'm going to remove the extension because I'm not going to be able to get there. I might have to go with a shorter. Yep, I'm going to have to go with a shorter. Okay, so one nut is off. I'm going to leave it for now. Let's see if I can get back here. Alright, so I got the other one off, so I'm just going to leave it here for now. And now what I have to do is remove this bracket by hopefully just pulling it forward. And now it's off. So as you can see, this moves now freely in there. All right, so now I have to disconnect the 2 pipes from the underside of the plenum and then release the 2 hoses from the backside of the plenum shown in this picture. All right, so let me just look at it and I'll be right back. All right, so now that I've located the 2 hoses that I need to remove, I'm just going to show you them really quick. This one is underneath over here, and this one's underneath the SMG reservoir. And then the next thing I'm going to do is remove and unhook these 2 hoses in the back behind the intake. So I'm going to use my pliers and squeeze again. And then this one just came off. And then I have a rag just in case some fluid leaks out. And this one just clicked out, but it doesn't look like any fluid came out, so we're good. And like I said, the next 2 things are going to be unhooking. It's hard to see. Just want to make sure I got the second one unhooked, which I did not. All right, and now this one's unhooked. So now I'm going to go on to the next step. All right, so the next step is going to be removing the 6 clamps along the throttle body. You're going to want to release the clamps that are closest to the throttle body. It says to use an angle pick, but I don't think that's going to be strong enough, and I don't want to damage my pick by breaking it. So you could use, I guess, clamp cutters. So I'm going to do that now. I'm going to, obviously, you can see one's already off. So then after I finish all 6, I'm going to remove the intake plenum out of the car. All right, so as you can see, I took all the clamps off. So now it says, as I'm lifting up, I should be pulling back at the same time to release the couplers onto. Okay, so just disconnected itself. So now I'm going to hopefully wiggle this out of here somehow without breaking anything. Okay, and stock plenum is now out. Just going to put this over here. Oh, a little bit of fluid. So I'm just going to make sure that it doesn't fall. All right. So now the next step is, because this kit, you can get 2 different options with it. This is just the breather hose rebuild. So basically what I'm going to be taking is the crankcase breather hose, and I'm going to be cutting this section over here where you can see it's a little shinier, and then this section over here, and I'm going to be replacing it with this hose. So I'm going to do that now. All right, so as you can see here, there's actually 2 hoses that I needed to move the fittings over to new hoses that the China Motorsport kit came with. So this is the air shutoff valve. As you can see, I cut off old hose and put the new fitting on a new hose. This is already done. Now I'm working on the crankcase vent valve. So one of the fittings is still in the car. This is obviously the new hose with the new worm clamps, and this was the other fitting that was on the other end. So I'm going to put this fitting on and get this worm clamp tightened down, and then I'm going to go back to the car and put the other fitting on and tighten down the other worm clamp. Alright, so as you can see, the crankcase hose is now in the car. I don't have it hooked in yet. I just tightened down both the worm clamps just a little bit so that the hose wouldn't move, but I will snap it in once the plenum, the new intake plenum, is now going to be in the car. Now I'm going to come back over here. There's a few things I just want to go over. So with this kit, you have the option to relocate the oil dipstick tube, which we're not going to be doing. So I'm just going to skip over that. And now I'm going to be working on the carbon fiber plenum. The first thing I'm going to be doing is removing these 4 bolts from the top, so that makes it easier when I go to install it that this is detached from this piece. And then I'm going to be putting on the bracket and these 2 mounts. as well as the new intake temp sensor. So I'm just going to start with this now. You just want to be careful because this is carbon fiber, so you just don't want to scratch it while you're working on it, which is another reason why I'm taking this piece off from the other part of the intake. Excuse me. Oh, don't want to lose this. Just going to put these aside for now. So these are now removed. So I should be able to easily put this over here. I'm just going to put this on my workbench. Now I'm going to flip this. I'm going to leave it like this. And then you're going to have the two mounting points here, the bracket, and then the sensor. So these parts all come in the kit. Just want to make sure that there's not one side that's longer than the other. And I'm just going hand tight for now. Then I just want to make sure that I have the bracket in the correct orientation. So I believe it's going to sit like this. Again, just hand tight. Now the bracket's in. All right, so now I'm going to put the temp sensor in. I just want it to snap into place, which I didn't hear click, but it's not coming out, so it's a good thing. And that is that for now. The next thing is going to be installing the new, I guess, rubber intake boots or couplers, whatever you want to call them, with the clamps. So I'm going to go into the car now and do that. All right, so the first thing you're going to want to do is take your intake boots and put them on, and then you're going to take the smaller clamp and start tightening them down. This just helps ensure So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go grab the larger worm clamps. I'm going to put them on each of the intake boots. Then I'm going to grab the intake plenum. Some of these have stickers on them, which is very annoying. Right now I'm just looping them through. I will put them in the proper orientation that I want them in once I have the plenum on and I start tightening them down. As you can see, all of the smaller worm clamps are all facing semi up towards me, but that's what I'm going to do with the larger ones. Now I'm going to carefully take plenum, hopefully without dropping it. I'm almost positive I need to hook these two mounting points into the old two mounting points and then put the nuts on, and then as well as hook up the hoses. Just going to double check before I do that with the instructions, then I'll be right back. Alright, so I'm not sure if I mentioned this before, but because this M3 is SMG, we're going to be using the CSL SMG relocation tank. This tank is going to be situated right here on the strut mount. One thing to note is we're going to take 3/8 hose and take the hose from here to here because we don't want to break this hose, so we're just going to leave that and just put an extended hose through here. And then I'm now going to install the intake plenum. Alright, so like I said, I'm going to take the plenum now and I'm going to try and install it. These two pieces here, like I said, are the mounting points for the bracket that sits here. The other thing that is going to be fun to install is getting this hose that you see down here, that is in between my fingers, in to, oh, what do you got, this hole here before I put it onto the mounting points. I'm going to try and do that now. No pressure here. Problem is I don't want to scratch anything either, so I'm going to try my hardest not to. Usually I would have someone helping me. Trying to see where I'm hitting over here. Another thing to note is in the instructions it says we might have to shave this a little bit or cut it. I'm hoping that we don't have to, but I'm just going to take my time putting the plenum in to see if we actually have to. See if I could reach underneath to that hose and clip it in. I see the hose. I feel it. Question is, can I push it through? Alright, so I think I just got it into place. I'm just gonna peek my head in under there. And it's in. So now what the next step is, I'm gonna make sure that the larger side of the couplers get, or boots, intake boots get put on properly onto the intake plenum. And I'm gonna lightly tighten them. We're stuck underneath on this piece over here. So as you can see, I have the carbon plenum on now. Just a few things that you just want to take note of. It's not the greatest fitment. Only one of these screws is going to be able to go on because the other one you're not going to be able to get on. We did get the hose plugged in down here, which you're not going to be able to see as well. Another thing is, remember how I said that you could do the relocation of the dipstick? We're just bending ours. Obviously the expansion tank is going to go there for the SMG pump. And now I'm just going to finish tightening up the big worm clamps on the plenum so that they are secure. All right, and now those are all hand tight. So the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to take this intake sensor harness and I'm going to plug it into here. Then I'm just going to wire this down below here. And now that's in. Next thing I'm going to do is take out the filter so that I can put on the other piece of the plenum. There are different options for the filters. This one is blue, they have red, and I believe it's either white or black. And just gotta squeeze it on in there. Super freaking snug. Jeez Louise. This back corner. Alright, I think I'm in. Another thing I want to mention is, let me grab my flashlight so you guys can see it. So like I mentioned about the expansion, the SMG expansion tank. So as you see here, we took some hose and we have it routed this way so that we could put it into the bottom of the expansion tank. I'm just leaving it there for now because I'm going to finish this part before I get to that part. And now I should be able to put on this piece. Let me find my handy dandy I'll bring these over here. And this should go on without any issue. Just going to thread these in by hand first. Alright, so I have the air shutoff valve pipe right here. This is going to get connected right there. I'm going to slide the pipe through with the grommet. And then this is going to get connected, which I might have to adjust that in a second. And then slide the barbed fitting into the hose back here. Alright, I'm going to adjust this off camera and then plug that back in. And then the next thing I'm going to snap back into place is the crankcase vent valve. There we go. And that one's now in. And then I'm gonna start putting majority of it back together, the car back together. So I'm gonna put this all back together. I could technically put this piece back together in here. And then, like I said, I'm going to do the expansion, the SMG expansion tank relocation as well. All right, so I'm just going to show you what we did with the SMG relocation tank. So this is by MLR. Unfortunately, they want you to mount it here, like I've stated multiple times in this video so far, but we realized if we did that, we wouldn't be able to close the hood. It would hit over here. So what we're just going to do is we're going to have something bracket fabricated so that this is where it's going to be seated. Basically, it's just going to sit a little high up like that. And that way we can run this SMG tank. Right now I'm just going to wrap everything up, put everything back together, and then I'll be right back. All right, so as you can see, everything is put back together. A few things just to go over really quick. I'm going to put the negative battery cable back on, and then I'm going to start it up. But just to note, you need an alpha N tune for this vehicle if you're putting in any type of intake. So I'm waiting on that from Active AutoWorks as well as the Simon cable, because the Simon cable is VIN locked. So yeah, I'm just gonna go start her up right now and see how she sounds, and then I can't drive it until I have both of those things. So I'm just gonna go to the back of the car. This part always freaks me out. Anything to do with batteries freaks me out. I don't know why. All right, and that's on. So now I'm just going to put this down and I'm going to start the car and see how she sounds. She should be able to start up with no issue. Worst case, I have to remove the mass airflow sensor to start it, but I shouldn't have to do that. So let's see. So I'm just going to let it run for a few seconds before I rev it out, just because the car has been off, but here you go. And that is how the car sounds with the intake in. I'm also just going to open up the exhaust that I did obviously in the previous video. As you can tell now, the exhaust valves are open. And that is with the valves open and the intake. So now I'm just going to close the valves. Now it's quieter. And now I'm just going to shut the car off.